You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javanokelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing session of the Daily African Proverbs. It's exactly 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here in Seattle, Washington, and I am very, very privileged. My name is Simon Javanokelo, and I'm here with Geba Seku Kamara. Geba is an amazing leader. He's a brother from Liberia. He's here in the US like myself, and he's a well-accomplished author. I have read 2 of his books recently. We are live streaming. That sound that you heard is of the live stream. I had not turned it off earlier. It was live streaming also on my computer here, so you can no longer hear it. But I want to welcome you to the Daily African Proverbs. This is a session that we hold every Monday to Friday, and one of my favorite things to do during the Daily African Proverbs is to host amazing leaders. And today I want to introduce you to, one of the people that make me want to continue doing this work. During these holidays, I read a number of books, and 2 of the books that I read during the holidays were from the author that we have as our guest today. And I want you to join us on YouTube so that you can also see, my brother Geba. The link, if you want to join us, is right on top of the room on Clubhouse. And then I want to encourage you to ping people into the room. The best way to do that is to use the plus button. It's right in the middle of the room if you are looking at your phone screen on Clubhouse. And then you can use the share button at the far left corner. I just used that myself to share this conversation, with everybody else who is able to join us. And then I also invite you to, use the clip feature where you can clip some of this the nuggets of wisdom that you're going to hear from today's conversation. You can also clip it. But before we begin, I want to let you all know that this space is a space that is for everybody. The Daily African Proverbs is for all human beings who embrace each other. And today we want to dive deep into what this proverb means for our brother Geba Seku Kamara, who is here with me today. Geba, go ahead and share with us briefly about yourself, and then just who you are. And then after that, what this proverb from Chad means to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Simon. Good morning to you. Good morning to the audience. Good morning to everyone. It's so good to be back on this platform. I miss Clubhouse a lot. Brother Simon, I follow you when you were in Africa traveling, and I was so jealous of some of the pictures that you sent.
Is that why you also? Is that why you also went to Africa later on?
Yes. Yeah, but I'm always amazed when I see us taking vacation back to to the motherland. It's, staying connected to the continent. I really love it. But the proverb say, if you go down where you have already been. If you go, let me say that again. If you go down where you have already been, and then what was it?
Yeah, if you always walk down the same path, you'll go where you've already been. Yeah, you'll go where you've already been. Yes.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Well, for me, very briefly, is that life is about change. Life is about learning. And if you're afraid to learn and you're sticking around the same people or the same environment, well, you're just going to be cycling in that same environment. You're not going to learn new things. You're not going to be exposed to new things. You're not going to capture new ideas and adventure into a new world. So you're just going to be cycling in the same path. It's like a car that's stuck in the mud. And, the tire just keeps spinning in the same place and, not moving forward, not moving backward. So to me, the proverb is clear: be adventurer, be willing to learn, stay out of your comfort zone for a moment, because if you do that, it certainly will help you, get exposed to a new thing and maybe, become a new you. Because life is about growing every day, you know. So for me, that's what the proverb means to me.
Wonderful. I
And
love that.
as for myself, if you want me to continue,
I
my
do
name
want
is
you to
Jiba.
continue. I want you to continue, but I want you to also just introduce yourself, and I want you to add a little bit into it by sharing with us, as a leader now, you've authored a lot of books, compared to many Liberian brothers that I know. I lived and worked in Liberia for a number of years myself. So when I was reading your book, especially your book about George Ware and your book about the great African empires, I was really, really taken back to the places I had visited in Liberia, but also I began looking at Africa and Ghana and many other parts of Africa in a different way. So share with us briefly, who you are, but also as a leader now, what is it from your childhood that still inspires you today?
All right, thank you. So again, as some have said, my name is Jiba Sekou Kamara. I am from Liberia. My parents came from Guinea, back in the early 30 or something. Liberia was always this country where it was the shining star in Africa. It was the land of freedom. It was the land of prosperity. So a lot of our, Liberians today, you find most of their parents came from different areas. So my parents came from Guinea and settled in Liberia, and I was, born in Liberia. I am the last of four, children. Uh, I tell people this every time they laugh at me. My oldest brother is 77 years old. He actually raised me. My father had me when he was in his late 60s. So I'm the last of four kids. So, and for that, I didn't really get to enjoy any father-son relationship because he was already old. I was young, so but I have always been inspired because I live between two different worlds. Half of my family is a Muslim, and half of them, they're Christian. So I went to Arabic schools. I prayed, read the Quran. I could memorize the entire Quran at the age of 12, 13 years old. When I left from my father's family to go live with my brother, who is having to be a Christian, and he was in the Liberian army, he was raised by what we call Congo people in Liberia. Those are the descendants of American Liberian. So he then, so he was a Christian. So I have to transform my whole life to adjust to my new, reality. And I remember as a kid when I used to pray, the kids around would, come and push me, you know, kick me when I bend down, or when I bow down, because it was strange to them. They never seen no Muslim before, So that was the pressure for me to continue my Islamic faith, So as a result, I got exposed to missionaries who used to come and pick us up, take us to biblical seminaries and stuff like that. And I started reading, there's a book in Liberia back in the day. It's called My Little Bible Stories, like a little yellow and red book. That book exposed me to the world beyond what I knew. Because as a Muslim, there was a lot of things that was said, about Christians at the time that I didn't quite understand, that we couldn't even befriend them because they were different from us. But yeah, I was in a whole world where there was no Muslim but all Christians. And they were me, they were my family, they were my relatives. So I learned through reading my little red Bible about a world beyond mine. And that actually started my curiosity about learning, learning about the world. And since then, I have never stopped reading, doing research, and just trying to find myself, so who am I? When the opportunity came, well, during the Liberian Civil War, I was earlier on drafted into the army. And after the Liberian Civil War, thank God, many of us didn't make it. So many family members and friends died. But as God could make it, he saved my life because he had a purpose for me. And here I've been in the United States since 1998. And, when I first got to the United States, I tried to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be here for 5 years and go back. Here I am, 5 years long gone by. But, in pursuit of education, I, attended Lincoln Technical High School. Lincoln Technical College, where I got an associate in automotive technology, working in the automotive field for a minute, and then went to Temple University to get my bachelor in criminal justice administration, because I always had the feel for criminal justice. And then I later moved on to University of Phoenix. They had a campus in Philadelphia where I graduated and got my bachelor degree. And then I later moved on to New England College in New Hampshire and got my master in criminal justice administration. And then I started to teach at a community college in Philadelphia, teaching criminal justice. And then later on, I went on to get my second master in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And then from there, I worked with the Philadelphia prison system. And I always also had passion for cooking. And I also, did a culinary program. And I'm also a professional chef, as well as, an author, a teacher. For me, learning is something that I yearn for. And there's a tragedy that came in my life that actually transformed me to who I am today. Though I've always considered myself a leader, even though I was the last, or I'm the last for my family, but everyone looks up to me. And that life-changing event actually brought me into the reality of life, because a lot of things I was doing, I was accomplishing it. I never thought it was difficult. I'm like, you just need to put your mind to it and you will do it. If you want to learn something, go for it, you'll learn. But I feel also that I was drifting in certain kind of way that God wanted, that God didn't intend for me. So this life-changing event took me to, got in some situation with the IRS. I went to prison and lost everything. I was married with 3 kids, living in a suburban home, $500,000 home, basically, in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Lost my wife, lost my kids, lost my home, lost everything. But in that process of reform, while I was sitting in the federal, camp, I met some great people who actually inspired my life. And also I wanted to drive away from my situation. I wanted to escape my world that I was in now. I was confined into this little box, into those little 2x2 space. And what do I do with my life? Who am I? I really thought deeply into that. Despite all my accomplishment, I don't think I've ever sat down and asked myself, who am I? What's my purpose? What do I really want to do? But that movement, that 18 months that I spent in federal camp, it actually changed my life. And I tell people all the time, they're like, gee, but you always a good human being. You just made a horrible, lapse in judgment. I said, no, I like the new me. I like the new Jiba. I like my new inspiration. I like my new thought process. I like what I'm going into the world. But I was merged into reading. I used to read 5, 6, 7 books a week. And I kind of saw myself diving into history books. And I was inspired by a lot of the historical books that I learned about Africa, books that I wasn't privileged to growing up in Liberia. And as such, I was like, wow, I do have an opportunity, which is to share the story that I'm learning while having all this free time to myself. And before I came out, I was able to put in 10 manuscripts, 5 of whom that I've already published into a book, and the rest I'm staying, working on it because the time, work, and all this other stuff have kind of like, delayed me a little bit. But my goal is to inspire African. My goal is to make sure that, we African tell our own story. A lot of our story, as you all know, have been told to us by people who don't look like us, people who never step on the ground that we grew up in, the people that never experienced the life that we experienced, but yet they tell us our narrative. Unfortunately, we happen to believe their narrative about us, based on what they have telling us. So I wanted to change that trajectory. I wanted us to be the narrative of our own story. And as such, I have dived into, being an author, writing and telling the African story. And recently when I visited Ghana, I was really, really inspired because not many people get to write historical book or books that actually step on the ground of where the event occurred. When I visited Cape Coast, and visited the various slave, castle there, I was really inspired. The same thing. When I wrote my first book, Slavery and Black American Statehood, I went to Goree Island in Senegal and actually stepped into the footsteps of those people today that, footstep that we step on. So I'm inspired by that, and I want to do more tour into Africa and just bring out our story alive. So just a little bit there about me. And like I said, let's join the crusade. Let us be the writer of our own story. Let's tell our own story. And my job is to inspire, for us to do that.
Thank you very much. I truly appreciate you sharing, your story, your journey with us, and also what inspires you as a leader today. I read, the book that you wrote about George Ware, and I love football. I love, since we're in America, when you say football, it could be confusing. I love soccer, and growing up in Kenya, many of my friends that became legendary football players had similar stories to George Ware, and, as I was reading that book, first I want you to share with us why you chose to write about George Ware. And for those who are watching or listening to this, George Ware is the only player in history to ever take the ball from his goalkeeper and dodge everybody in the field and go and score on the other side. When he was playing in Italy, in Serie A, and that was incredible. It's unbelievable, just the strength and the energy that a human being can have in order to do that, But your book paints, the story of George Ware, who, after succeeding and becoming, a legendary soccer player, he is now the Liberian president. He tried to vie for the presidency in Liberia many times, and he failed. But whenever he learned what his weakness was, he went and worked on it. So, I want you to for a moment, just step down and imagine that you're reading this book to George Ware. You are in the State House in Monrovia. When Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf left power, did she move out of the State House and George Ware took it? I don't think that currently the original, State House, the tall building is being used yet. During the war, it was damaged. So there was a new one. Yeah, the executive mansion is still not in use, right?
No.
Right. There was a new one after you passed through downtown Liberia on your way to the Coca-Cola factory. That's where the new mansion was. So I visited that mansion many times actually when I was working in Bong County. We were we lived right behind the Coca-Cola factory. So the president's sister, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's sister, was the patron of our project. So at the end of every month when I was in Liberia, I had dinner with her and her sister to report on the project. So I was just asking out of curiosity whether George Ware now lives where Ellen Johnson Sirleaf used to live. But regardless, imagine that you're reading this to George Ware. He has invited you to read it to him, and he asked you to pick your favorite excerpt from this book. Can you quickly read it for us? And then I want to engage you in another question here. But before you do that, I want to thank all our audience members on YouTube and also on Clubhouse. If you're watching this on YouTube, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and also push the thumbs up button so that next time we have this live stream, YouTube will automatically notify you. And also leave us with your comments. Let us know what today's proverb means to you. If you are joining us on Clubhouse, thank you. I encourage you to join us on stage if you're in the audience, so that we can also hear your perspectives. And also if you are on stage, thank you so much for being here. I encourage you to ping in 3 to 5 people to join us for this conversation, and also share this conversation with others who are probably not in the room and they should be here with us right now. Thank you so much. Jiba, go ahead and read the first excerpt for us, please.
All right, thank you. There's a lot of favor in this area, but I will go with the first chapter just to introduce people to who this man really is. All right, chapter 1, George Minor Weir, earlier life. Born George Minor Weir on October 1st, 1966 in Monroeville, Liberia. Weir's early life was marked by hardship while growing up in Claretown, a poor slum in the suburb of Monroeville. Weir family were very poor according to Liberian standards. Weir's father was a mechanic by trade, and he could not earn enough to uplift his family out of the poor slum of Claretown. As soon as George Weir was born, tragedy hit the family hard. Weir lost his father at a very young age, which added more pressure on the family meager household income. With his father no longer alive to support the family, young Weir was pressured to turning into a street vendor, selling in the slum marketplaces and anything that the family could lay hands on to purchase food. His mother was also a produce seller. The Ware family was struggling to get by day. With barely any financial support in sight, George Weir's mother decided to leave young George and his siblings with their grandmother and went out to establish a better life of her own. With his mother out of the picture, Weir's grandmother stepped in to raise him and his 2 brothers. Raising 3 boys in the slum is hard for any family in Liberia, but doing it as a grandmother was even harder on Weir's grandmother. So often George Weir and his brothers were practically on the street fending for themselves. Meanwhile, when George Weir started making fame and fortune, he proudly paraded his grandmother on the world stage for all to see, the woman that made him what he has become. Because of the family financial hardship, Weir and his brothers started schooling at a late age. Some reports indicate that he was around 10 or 12 years old, thereby making him a laughingstock by younger kids in his classroom. At times, Weir felt embarrassed and discouraged to go to school. Weir was also embarrassed by the fact that many of his classmates had food to eat during recess. He and his brothers were among the few kids that did not have lunch money or food during school recess. Most often, Weir would rather stay behind in the classroom than come out to play to avoid the kids taunting him and his siblings. Under his grandmother's loving guardians, young George lived a normal and happy life, always respectful of order and cheerful despite the challenges that life threw at him and his family. According to close friends of the Weir families, young George, or Manny, a name his late grandmother preferred to call him, would oftentimes go to bed with just one meal in his tiny belly. So were the tales of many other kids around him. Mane, or Opon, as he was famously called, has a unique talent that was hidden in his feet, which the whole country and the world will one day come to discover. A talent that will power him to the highest echelons of the world soccer stage. As a young soccer player, when asked who he wanted to be like, Weir would often reply, I want to be like King Pelé of Brazil. Despite his abject poverty and daunting upbringing, young George Weir had a dream to become a famous soccer player in the world. George Weir's soccer talent was discovered when he began playing barefoot on uneven grass field in the slum of Clarendon in Monrovia and its surrounding fields. He would later move on to play the game he dearly loved in high school and on community fields around Monrovia, where his path to stardom began to take shape while playing on junior team called the Young Survivor. As George began to play around Monrovia grassland field, everyone wanted to have him on their team, especially when it was discovered that he had a unique way of possessing the ball between his legs and double dribbling his opponent, leaving them behind in the dust. Defenders and goalkeeper were terrified by his athletic ability and speed and would shout at defender to stop him before he penetrated their goal yard. George Weir was always on the winning side with his unique ability to score goals from nearly any position on the soccer field. Soon, words of Weir's talent began to spread like wildfire, and news of his talent would spread throughout the street and slum of Monrovia and its surrounding area. As he was entertaining soccer enthusiasts around Monrovia, it did not take too long for a prominent soccer team to start auditioning him for his talent.
Thank you so much. Thank you, my brother Jiba. And thank you for our amazing audience for staying with us. Since the beginning of the program until now, we were just having our brother Jiba, who is an author of the book he was reading from, read for us his favorite excerpt from it. I also read another book that he wrote, but I want to encourage you to grab a copy of his book. So, Jiba, I want you to prepare to, if you're on YouTube, you might be able to see an image of the book. Jiba is currently showing it. Share with everybody who is listening where they can get a copy of your books. Actually, can you share that now?
All right, so all of the copies. So my first book is Slavery and Black American Statehood. That book is also on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and pretty much many other outlets. Now, my other 5 books after that, I wrote through Amazon Publishing. So the first one, or the second one, I would say, is called America Forgotten Star. So basically, this is one of my favorite books, and by far, not because I'm the author of this book, but this book is pretty much the most modern, up-to-date story about Liberia and the Black American relationship. I know now, as you know, the world is, or Black American, or Black people as a whole, trying to reconnect back to our history and, trying to, decipher all of the information that has been told to us. As we begin to really check into our history, I would recommend this book. This book tells you about Liberia and the whole sub-region, which is, Sierra Leone, Guinea, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, before the coming of the European, what those places look like, what the people there did. And then also talks about what led to the Black American being resettled into Liberia. And when they settled there, what happened through their leadership almost for 130 or 40 years before the first, military coup d'etat that took place. So it's a really unique book, and it also had a lot of recommendation there for what the African diaspora and what the African country can do in terms of our young generation. That, because Africa is poised to be the most populated country in 2030, in 2035 to 2050. And that young generation is yawning, is eager to learn, entrepreneur, they are very tech smart, and these are people that we can turn into an asset or we can turn into a machine of war. But it all depends on the leader that we have today. So this book actually talked about that and gave us some, ideas on how to move forward. It's also on Amazon, available on Amazon. My Great African Heroes. This book actually I was inspired after watching, Black Panther, as well as reading several other books. That why is it that African heroes are not talked about? You know, if you look at every books in the library, often you hear great accomplishment of people that don't look like us, Julius Caesar and all these, Christopher Columbus and all these people. I mean, we have people who did great things than those people that contributed to the world. So this book is really one of my favorite books, and the fact that I was able to go to Cape Coast in Ghana, where all of these things started, to really stand there. I felt good about it. This book is also available on Amazon as well. And then I also have, this is one of my favorite books too. I always tell people, I ask my Black American friends, I said, who was the first Black American to become president? And they would say Obama. I said, no, it's Joseph Jenkins Robert. And they would be like, why? Who's Joseph Jenkins Robert? I said, well, he was the first Black American to become president, but not here, unfortunately, in Liberia. He was the first Black man to become president on the African continent. He was the head of the world's second constitutional democracy. It's a very unique story in Liberia growing up. There's not much was told to us about Joseph Jenkins Robert. So a lot of the story here is new to a lot of Liberians, a lot. And Black American, of course, the same thing. A lot of them don't even know about this man, Joseph Jenkins Robert, who came from Virginia, the United States. This book is also available on Amazon as well.
Thank you, my brother. I want you to also connect today's, global celebration of MLK to the book you just spoke about, to your work, to your story. I want you to think about that for a moment. Your passion, what drives you, what drove George Ware to be who he is, what drove, Joseph Jenkins. And what was driving Martin Luther King, I want you to think about that for a moment so that you share it during your closing remarks in just a moment. But I do want to hear from our audience members who have been listening to us keenly, so that you can then also, listen to them, but also give them your remarks at the end of, their share. I want you to be able to give feedback, because they're going to provide comments to just the incredible, accomplishments that you've had, and also the incredible stories that you've written about. So I want you to stay with me for a moment while we hear from, Mama Yama and Akinseye and Austin and Joseph and Jay and Latanja, who are with us on Clubhouse. Then we come back to you. Is that okay, my brother?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Perfect. Mama Yama, I want to invite you to unmute and share with us, your comments to our brother Jiba, who is our special guest, and also if you have any comment on the proverb today.
Hi, hola. How are you, Simon? Hello to everybody.
Nice to hear your voice.
Yeah. Well, I need to introduce myself. I'm from Brazil. I am a Afro-Brazilian woman, and I'm living in Ecuador. But I was very glad to to listen to this brother. Wow, it's very special. But I would to say something also about this proverb that I was thinking so much. If you always walk the same path, you will arrive where you have already been. So I keep asking myself, and I always try to understand why we human beings like to spend our lifetime chewing the same tasteless gum? Why living the same story of pain? And why to live in a state of violence with ourselves and with those who are close to us? The universe brings us new opportunities to create a new and beautiful path for us every day. And after knowing this proverb, I was thinking so much, and this teaching remains in my heart, and I want to share this personal reflection with you today because it's very special, this proverb. Thank you very much for this space, Brother Simon, and a beautiful week to all. Ashe, I'm complete.
Ashe, thank you so much for your wonderful share. Thank you again for being here with us. It means a lot. But I can say, share with us your remarks as well in regards to this proverb, and also any comments to Brother Jiba. Thank you again for showing up on YouTube and supporting there as well. Thank you very much.
Yes, good morning, Brother Simon, and good morning to everyone that is a part of this circle this morning. I'd like to say bon dia to the mama that just spoke. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so
bom
much for your.
dia.
Don't go too far. That's as far as my Portuguese goes. I'm a bad student. Muito mal, muito mal. Okay,
Okay.
but
Portuguese is okay.
I definitely need to practice. I also want to give regards to Brother Simon again. Thank you for this space. And also, good brother Geba, I'm not sure if we've ever met before. I am actually calling from Philadelphia, PA myself. So
Oh, okay.
we may have been traveling in some of the same circles, but never been able to connect. So maybe in the near future, we'll be able to rectify that. But in
Sure.
regards to this beautiful proverb this morning, um, if you always walk down the same path, you will go you'll go where you've already been. It makes me think about another saying, which is doing the same things with the expectations of producing different results is the definition of insanity. Now, various people may, think that term insanity harsh, but what it does make us do is truly reflect on our actions and our thoughts. You know, um, if we do something simple like examine the idea of like bodybuilding, just for a simple example, what do? We go to the gym, we use the same weights, we we do our push-ups, and we do them frequently enough, looking to get stronger, looking to get, to get better, you know. Um, but that is an example of repetitiveness, and sometimes that is definitely important, right? But again, in regards to this proverb, um, I think it's important to think about or reflect on the idea of if you cannot go further, go deeper. Sometimes we think that we're trapped in something. you know. And Simon, you have to forgive me. Sometimes I listen to the proverb, but I kind of turn them on its ear a little bit to try to get another truth out of it. So the idea of doing the same things and being repetitive, it can be a blockage, right? But it also can be the impetus to go a different direction, right? Again, if you can't go further, you can possibly go deeper. So, I also wanted to ask, brother Geba, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but from your work uh, around the world, obviously in Philadelphia, have you ever used the idea of instilling African proverbs on the the congregations or the communities or the groups or the students that you've worked with, and do you think you could? What do you think that teachers in the public school system or even other leaders in other organizations can gain from using more African wisdom in their dissertations and talks. And thank you, Simon, again for allowing me to speak. And I'll pass the mic. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Jiba, because that's a very specific question, I'll let you answer it before we move on to Brother Austin and the rest of our amazing friends on the stage. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope we can sometime cross paths. Your voice sounds very familiar. Maybe we met on Clubhouse through the same platform. But anyway, I know I have initially started a project. It was just mostly like a short collection of African stories that I wanted to do, and also to set up a platform where different Africans from different social background or different tribal region of Africa, where we are able to share, stories, short stories online, like a platform where it's available. So if anyone looking for like an African proverb or story to tell, whatever, in a classroom, or let's say you was done tired reading all of these Cinderella stories to your kids, but you want something different, you can log in and be able to, get a story online based on this platform and be able to, tell that whether it's in a classroom setting or whether you're trying to put your kid to bed. Because I actually came up with this idea when my own kids, got tired of me reading all of these, Cinderella American story books that they have. One day I just, didn't want it to read to them, but they didn't want it to go to sleep. So I was like, all right, I just tell you guys a story. And I told them an African story from Liberia. And since then, they love it. And every now and then, I don't remember a lot of these stories anymore. So I kind of ran out of story and I started making my own story, but connecting it to Africa. So then I came with the idea, okay, why if I maybe do a collection of stories, just, ask anybody, their grandma, grandfather, whatever story they have, an old folks store. Because, a lot of our stories not written. It's all true narrative. And as these old folks dies or, depart this world, the story goes with them. Because then, I was like, all right, maybe we can build a platform to do that. So in answer to your specific question, I think that's the way we can preserve these stories. Now that we have the opportunity that they didn't have to, write down these stories or archive them, maybe it's something that we can do, and I'm definitely available to work on these stories because I already have a lot of collection of these stories. But yeah.
Thank you, Brother Jiba. I hope that was good, a good response, Brother Akinse. We want to move on to Austin, and then Joseph, and then Jay, and then Latanja. Austin, share with us your perspectives on today's proverb and any comments to Brother Jiba. Thank you so much.
First of all, good morning to everyone. Good morning, Simon and Jiba and all the rest of those attendants today. Buen dia, habari za asubuhi. I just want to say, when I think about today being a day set aside to commemorate Martin Luther King, it sort of all ties together. The African proverb, the beautiful story I heard about Jiba, and I think all of us have this in common too. I sort of zeroed in on the comment that Jiba mentioned about finding a purpose. And I think that sort of ties it all together because when you're walking down the same path, you always end up going in the same destination is because you haven't found your purpose. You haven't discovered your purpose. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., knew his purpose and he walked that path. And I think all of us today, I think we share that in common, that we need to find our purpose for those of us who haven't. And I think once we found it, it allows us to walk with more confidence. And then another thing that I see in all the stories is once you found your purpose, oftentimes there is someone destined to be a collaborator with you as we walk, together in unison. and you look back in all the history of our people, and you see individuals who knew their purpose, but there was always someone to their left and to their right because they knew their purpose, and that unity and that power. I think that's what allowed us to make that change. So that was my comment. Finding a purpose, I think, is what allows us to not walk down the same path and to join in collaboration with others as we do so. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate your contribution as well. Brother Jiba, I hope you're taking notes, because at the end you're going to, share your closing remarks and wrap everything that our beautiful community is sharing. Now I want to pass the microphone to Joseph, my brother. I hope you're doing well. Share with us your thoughts on today's proverb. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon. Good day, everyone. And bon tarde, Mama. I hope everything is okay with everyone. Had a lovely weekend. Yeah, Simon, it's always difficult, after hearing from so many people, the way of understanding of each and every proverbs and how we translate it. It's so rich-minded that each and every time you don't want to miss this group and you don't want to listen to what others are enriching yourself. But looking at today's proverbs, it's basically remind me of the conversation I had with my young nephew the other day walking to the shop. And I told him, let's not use the same road all the time, because one never know what people have in mind. They might be able to set for you a trap. And this is because I remember walking backwards when my father was still alive. We never used the same road all the time. He always make a U-turn or used a different road. And he tell you that using the same road, you are showing your enemy your weakness. So what the Proverbs today is saying, if you always walk down the same path, you'll go where you have already been. And definitely you will be walking the same way, because you know this is my way home and this is my way back. At the same time, you can't change, you can't improve yourself. That's why in life also, when we convert these proverbs into a life way of doing things, not everything that we do, it should remain the same, but we must be able to improve ourselves and challenge ourselves so that we can do it better. It's the same as walking the path that we are walking. Not every path that we walk each and every day is going to be the same. It has to be different so that we can be able to learn, we can be able to improve, and we can be able to motivate each others by saying that when you change your life, this can be able to happen. When you use the same path that you have been always using, there will be no improvements. So for me, that's what is teaching me today. So it's that let me change my direction. Let me look at the way I can be able to change my way of doing things by bringing positivity within the community that I'm involved with, the friends that I'm involved in, so that they can have a different path. They must not walk the same path that they walk each and every day. So basically for me, that's how I translate these proverbs for today. I'm done speaking. Thank you, Simon, once again.
You're most welcome, Brother Joseph. Thank you, and welcome to everyone who is here with us in the moment. This is the Daily African Proverbs. We do this every Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we share beautiful and powerful African proverbs with the hopes that by the end of our conversation, you leave this space feeling nourished and feeling a little wiser, because you're equipped with, a little bit of information that is not new, but, these are conversations. Proverbs, Joseph always says Proverbs are untold stories from our ancestors. So we are dissecting them and, learning from them. So that's the hope. I want to encourage you to ping in 3 to 5 people into the room and share this conversation while we are still here. I think we are going to be here for another 15 or so minutes. My special guest today is Jiba Seku Kamara, who is an author and an entrepreneur and just an amazing human being. He's live with me on YouTube. Now I want to move on to Jay. Jay, share with us your thoughts on the proverb and also any comments to Jiba. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Simon. And thank you, Brother Jiba, for being an amazing person. And I think if you hunger, if there is a hunger inside of you and you're truly thirsty after a better life, you're going to do whatever is within your power and within your reach to accomplish it. It's kind of, to me, it's like you just have a little flicker inside of you that turns into a roaring flame. And in recognizing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., it's not like it's what he wanted to do, but it was a flicker inside of him. It was a calling. And if it was not him, then who was it going to be? Someone had to pick up their own cross. That was his cross and his responsibility to bear, to get the foot of Jim Crow and racism and discrimination off our necks and off our backs. Someone had to unite us. And it was a huge sacrifice. So, one thing about this proverb that came to mind is that if we don't remember the past, we are condemned to repeat it. And when it comes to war, when it comes to racism, when it comes to discrimination, we're repeating it because we're not remembering the anguish and the pain and the suffering and the loss of lives for the past. So, in going down a different road, taking a different direction, you have to choose a path that is of love, of compassion and kindness and honesty and integrity. You have to choose that despite all the odds that might be against you. This room, proverb room, helps us to remember and to choose to do something better for ourselves, for the sake of society, and for the sake of mankind. Thank you so much, dear Brother Simon, for allowing me to speak and share.
You're most welcome. Thank you for being here and thank you for your continued support. Now we want to go to Sister Latanja. Share with us your perspectives on the proverb and also if you have any comments to our guest today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Simon, for always having the will and understanding of creating the space. I actually have something similar to what Jay just spoke on. What mine is, do this in remembrance of me. That's what I thought of. And with that, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he shared his life for the work of humanity, humility, and honorability. So when I think about the proverb, if you always walk down the same pathway, you'll go where you always have been. And for me, our ancestors carried the torch lit with fire in the spirit of maintaining balance and a consistent desire. This is the pathway to which we should aspire. And so my question for Brother Jiba is, how do you begin the work of bringing harmony with regard to your work on the American Favorite Star? I like to know. And I yield the mic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Latanja. It means a lot that you're here. And I'll pass it on to you, Brother Jiba, to, share your answer and also your closing remarks. And then after that, I want you to share with everyone who is listening, who is watching, how they can stay in touch with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Simon, and thank you to all our amazing audience for their comment, especially in relating to the proverb. Like the sister said, if we The proverbs and those told stories of our, ancestor that we are trying to digest and make sense of it and apply their meaning into our very lives. Uh, but that is our purpose, I believe. And Simon, like the brother said, having a purpose. And sometimes once you have a purpose in life, you're going to have heroes or allies who are going to join you in that fight. And I believe that every one of us on this stage are your ally in helping to, push that purpose out there. So thank you for what you do. You're an amazing man. You held this place down for a very long time now. So I have to commend you for that. Thank you so much for this space. And thanks for everyone for sharing. For me, with regard specifically to the question before I, go into my closing remark, uh, I know the people before us did a disservice in terms of the relationship between Liberia, which I call American Forgotten Star, and Black American. Uh, we didn't do a good job, teaching Liberian back home about, the brothers and sisters who, you know, left this country during the antebellum years of slavery in this country when black folks was considered nothing but, an object of the white man, tools for the white man, basically, decided that there was a better play lives for them somewhere, even though they were disconnected with Africa for over 200-300 years, because their ancestors were brought here that long. But yesterday they had a dream. They had a dream that there's a better place existed for them. They had a purpose that we can no longer, continue to live in a society that don't accept us as, don't accept us as one of them. Our family, our forefather died, bled, and built this country on our back and sweat for free. For free. Black folks built this country. And yes, they go through the same struggle that their forefather went through today. It is not, as brazen as it was back in the day, but it's still institutionally buried in a lot of these institutions that we deal with day in, day out. So part of my work in this book, American Forgotten Star, is to reconnect, Black American back to their ancestral land, which is Liberia. Because quite often, once a story is told about Black American accomplishment, it often starts here and ends here. It doesn't talk much about their accomplishment outside of this place. When the whole world, Europe, was in total turmoil, France, Spain, Italy, Black Americans were perfecting the world's second constitutional democracy far away in a different continent. Democracy is not something that you do and put together and then it stays like that. No, it has to be perfected. It has to be worked on. When they were building the world's second constitutional democracy in Africa, far away in Africa, Europe was in turmoil. But these accomplishments is not often mentioned about. Yeah, they had their own fault with the native, Liberian there. They have their own differences, but yet still, I want these stories to be told. History is not always kind to everybody, but it has to be told. And we got to get out of this one story narrative. If a story just have the beginning, no middle, or it doesn't have an end, it's not a full story. We have to have the beginning, the middle, and the end. And that is why, for me as a writer, is to connect these stories and tell it, not being biased about it, but telling the story as it should be told. So yeah, that's in relation to what I'm doing in terms of trying to digest the story of Black American as well as Liberian or African as a whole, to see how we can work in the unity that our forefathers fight for. Martin Luther King fight for, Michael Garvey's, all of these heroes before us fight for this unity that today is very fragile. Because when you go on Clubhouse and sit in room, you just want to run out of it because it is like World War III starting. But in specific to this room, like what the brother said in regards to our purpose, we have to have a purpose in life.
Brother Jiba.
Martin Luther King had a purpose.
I just wanted to add something to what you said about Liberia in the 90s, early 90s and 80s, and even late 70s. I used to hear from elders in Kenya that, you know, the elites from across Africa used to go to Liberia for vacation, you know. Liberia was like the Dubai those days. And that came about because of African Americans, you know.
Yes.
Could you just speak to that a little before you continue, you know?
You know, it's funny that you said that, Sam.
Because
I told you
I
I
also,
just
when
came
I was
from
in
Ghana.
Liberia, I was also being told that Liberia was the first country that had ATMs. Like way in the early 80s, Liberia already had ATM machines, you know. There are stories that you can only hear when you're in Liberia.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's funny that you said that because I was also in Ghana just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and somebody, you know, I did a boat launch there, and the guy was like, "Oh my God, Liberia!" And he's like, every day he lay down and prayed that Liberia should be what it used to be. He was telling me about his forefather, and this guy is very successful. His parents, they used to leave from from Ghana, from Nigeria and all these places to go to Liberia. He said Liberia was the first place to see like a real 5-star hotel in Africa. The Duca Hotel was a 5-star hotel. I remember as a kid, I used to go in that place and I thought I was in America, you know? And I mean, like you said, everything, unfortunately, Liberia's story is sad, but I think the reason why we are where we are, there's a lot more to do with, the intertribal, intercultural war that, took place between the native and the Black American descendant. So if we can mitigate those gaps and hopefully put Liberia back to what it's supposed to be or what it was intended for. Liberia was a magnet of Africa. People in Liberia never travel. Just like Americans don't like, now it's different, but back in the day, Americans don't just travel because it was America. This is where everybody wanted to come. That's what Liberia was. It was Liberia. That's where everybody wanted to go. So all of the freedom fighters in Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Toure, or Alpha Boye, what you call it, the late president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela. All of those people sought refuge in Liberia, because the Black American understood struggle for, freedom, struggle for equality. So they open a conduit, they open an environment to help foster these African countries that was fighting for colonial rules to be over. So Liberia really did a lot of work in helping all of these African. Cause remember, a lot of African countries very young. Most of them got their independence in the 50s, the 60s and the 70s. Liberia got her independence in 1847. That was even before France and Spain and all of these other countries. Even England, democracy was not stable yet at the time when Liberia was when practicing democracy. But all of those things was done because of Black American creation. So we need to unearth these facts, these amazing stories of Black American, and hopefully reconnect them back to the continent and make Liberia the success story that it's supposed to be or that it is. So with that said, yeah, I just wanted to add on, that as well. Yeah, but for me, my goal is for us to encourage young people to have a dream. Martin Luther King had a dream. Joseph Jenkins Robert, who I wrote about, had a dream. He had a dream that there's a better place existed for them outside of America at the time of America antebellum slave, era. George Weah, who I just wrote about, despite his upbringing, his abject poverty. This guy never even saw the TV growing up. But yet he heard the name Kim Pele, and he knew Kim Pele was the best soccer player at the time from Brazil. And he had a dream that he wanted to be like this guy. Not many people who actually dream about their hero get to see them. And I would tell you amazingly, and that's one thing that really encouraged me to write this book, because, like Samuel said earlier, soccer is the most popular sport in the world. And it is often played mostly by kids from the slum, kids from abject poverty, or kids that really not much is given to them, because with soccer, you can just find an open field. Even if you don't have a soccer ball, you can roll the orange or rubber, latex and tie it together, turn it around and play. Here you go, soccer games and start. So I wanted these kids to have a dream, just like George Weah did. Despite George Weah's poverty, he dreamed that he wanted to be like King Pele. And King Pele actually met George Weah and endorsed him as one of the world's best soccer players ever lived. I mean, not many of us can tell you we dream about someone who is our hero. We actually get to meet that hero. And that hero actually endorsed us as being, like him. Not many people can tell you that story. So I wanted this book to go out there, his story to go out there, because I know there are millions more George Weah to come. If we can only give them the hope and aspiration and tell them they can dream and their dreams can take them places, then yeah, like Martin Luther King dreamed that we were going to one day be where we are. It's not over. We still got to continue to fight. But I hope that, us on this platform can help share these stories, and hopefully, we can make this world a better place. Because the purpose of life is to leave a better environment for the next generation. And if we can't do that, then we have failed miserably. So with that being said, I want to thank Brother Samuel and everyone else. And thanks for this platform. And I hope to be back here again. I am not too big on social media, but I do have a Facebook, platform. I do have an Instagram platform. That's pretty much it. I need to up my social media game so to be connected with the world. I'm actually waiting for the pandemic. Hopefully things can slow down. I want to do a lot of book launches in the Philadelphia area and pretty much around the country. So most of what I have done, I have bought my own book and sent it to a library, donate it to people. Because my purpose is not to, make money. If you want to be an author, if you don't want to make money, be an author. Say you Steven Spielberg or, all these Agatha, what's her last name? I forgot her last name, but those are like, high-rated A author. They write for money. Their book may not be good, but their name on it will sell. My story may be good, but my name is unknown, so no one will buy it. So for me, I want my story to go out there, because this is a story we should be telling ourselves, our families, our children. So I'm hoping that, I can do a lot of book launch around the country as, the pandemic slowed down for a little bit. But other than that, my books are available on Clubhouse. You can find the link on Clubhouse on the African Writer Rooms. It's on Amazon. It's in Barnes and Nobles and other, bookstores out there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. I definitely want to encourage you to do a lot of speaking engagements on Clubhouse, a lot of Instagram lives. I want you to tell these stories the way you did today. Your story alone is truly, truly inspiring. And then the stories, when I connected with you on Clubhouse, I used to hear you speak and share your interpretation of the proverbs here in the Daily African Proverbs. And then when you sent me the signed copies of your books, I kept them so that I could read them at a quiet time. So during the holidays, I had a chance to read all of them. And, I'm just grateful. And now I've passed them on to my children to read them as well. And I encourage everyone who is here listening to connect with you, grab copies of your book, and support the amazing work that you do. And to everybody watching on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to the channel. Remember to push the thumbs up button so that when we have these live streams from Monday to Friday, you can also catch it. If you're on Clubhouse, I encourage you to follow the African Father in America Club and nominate, 3 to 5 people to join the club as well, because we want to grow this community so that it becomes more meaningful. With that, we are wrapping up our session for today. I am grateful, and have a beautiful Martin Luther King Day. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Jiba.
Thank you, Sam.
African Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African Father, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.